What is up, guys? In today's video, we're going to be going over Fortnite's newest balance update, which just came out today. As always, if you guys do enjoy this video, remember to give it a like, subscribe if you like to see more, and comment down below what you think of these changes and if this affects what you're going to use in your inventory at all. I'm first going to go over the changes just to summarize, and then after I go over the changes, I'll kind of talk about how I feel about them. The first is going to be that Godzilla now has a 100% chance of spawning. And I believe this is only supposed to be the case for this weekend, but you never know with Fortnite. But over this weekend, Godzilla should be spawning in every single match you play. So if you have been, struggling to become Godzilla or haven't really been able to see him at all, this weekend is now your chance to do that. He also has more HP now, so it should take longer to eliminate him. The way they worded this in kind of the patch notes is confusing, but basically he has more HP, it takes longer to kill him. And this was a noticeable change. I think it takes much longer to eliminate Godzilla, and I think this is a good thing personally, because he would die so fast that it's almost like he didn't even matter. So making it kind of take longer and spawn in every match and give everybody a chance to play with it, I think is a good thing. The weapon balance updates, there's several of them. The Holo Twister AR got nerfed. The fire rate was decreased by 6%, so the fire rate went from 5.5 to 5.2. And then the reload speed was decreased by 4%, meaning it's going to take a little bit longer to reload. So it shoots slightly slower, reloads slightly slower as well. The ONI Shotgun got a fire rate increase by 8%, so now the fire rate went from 1.25 to 1.35. You'll shoot a little bit faster. I think this is a good thing. The Typhoon blade damage was decreased by 2, and its structure damage was decreased by 6. This does not affect the swipe attack that people do that sends you flying. This is only the regular melee attack that got a damage reduction. The Twin Fire Auto Shotgun got a reload speed increase of 4%, so it will now reload faster. The Precision SMG got a reload speed increase of 4.5. This will also mean it reloads faster. And then the Fury AR got a reload speed increase of 1.8%. Again, it reloads faster. I kind of reiterate that because the phrasing on reload kind of confuses some people. But the Twin Fire Auto Shotgun, the Precision SMG, and the Fury AR all reload slightly faster. That's a good change to make the weapon better, like a positive change. The Twister AR reloads slower. So the ONI Shotgun, the Twin Fire Auto Shotgun, the Precision SMG, and the Fury AR got buffed. The Holo Twister AR and the Typhoon blade got nerfed, meaning they got made weaker. I don't think changing the reload times on these weapons very slightly has a large impact on how I feel about it. If you weren't using the Precision SMG or the Fury AR before, I don't think that slightly faster reload speed is going to contribute to your opinion at all. It's not gonna, change anything, especially by such a small number. The reload speed is a weakness for the auto shotgun, so making that reload a bit faster is nice, but 4% is not really that big of a deal at all. And I think if people weren't talking about these changes, you would probably get on and not know about it. It's such a small number. And then for the Holo Twister AR, the Fury AR, the Precision SMG, changing it doesn't impact how I feel about these weapons at all. I think the numbers that were changed there were so minor, and that aspect of the weapon was not really a big deal to begin with, that I think most people are not going to notice these changes at all. Changing the fire rate of the Holo Twister AR is something that kind of could impact how I feel about it and maybe shake up the meta, but this change wasn't significant enough in my opinion, and it is much better than anything I would use to replace it. It's not like the Holo Twister AR and the Fury were neck and neck for me, and it was really up in the air which one I was going to like, and then maybe this minor change kind of tips the Fury AR better. I feel like the Holo Twister AR was just so much better than everything else that this minor reduction in fire rate, it is a reduction. It makes the weapon a little bit worse, but it's not closing that gap enough to make me want to use something else over the Holo Twister AR. It is just night and day better than anything else, and it is not even close in my opinion. I think the Holo Twister AR is overpowered, so nerfing it was a good thing, but this minuscule of a change does not affect the meta at all in my opinion. I think if they reduced the fire rate a lot, then maybe there would have been a case, or if, they increased the recoil, making the weapon harder to use, then that would also maybe be something that shakes the meta up more. But this incredibly minor change to its fire rate doesn't do that big of a deal, in my opinion. I think most people are still going to prefer the Holo Twister AR. And you can kind of notice the fire rate difference. It's not like as irrelevant as the reload speed. But again, I think if people weren't aware that an update happened, a lot of people would get on and just not notice. It's not a drastic change to its fire rate. And I feel pretty much the same way about the Typhoon blade. This item is really overpowered and it's a really popular item in the game. So a nerf would make sense. But 2 damage to its base melee is not changing how anybody feels about it, especially when the main kind of attack people use from it is that swipe attack that sends people flying and like knocks them off of stuff. And so that still being unaffected, I don't think really changes how anybody thinks about the Typhoon blade. If you loved spamming the Typhoon blade before, you're not going to be affected by this update at all, I don't think. I think if they reduced the range or the radius of that swipe attack, then maybe that would be something that would, you know, actually rebalance the game and make people think about, like, do I still want to use the Typhoon blade or do I still want to use it in the same way, you know? But just reducing base melee by 2, I don't think changes the game really at all. And I think, again, this is going to be another nerf that nobody really notices at all. The ONI Shotgun buff, I think, is good. It's not night and day good, but it's an improvement for the weapon. And it's not like the ONI Shotgun was terrible before. I feel like the ONI Shotgun, it was worse than the Sentinel Pump, in my opinion. But the gap between them wasn't as large as, like, the Holo Twister AR in any other spray weapon, you know? So a small buff could be something that benefits the ONI Shotgun and gets it used more prevalently in the game, you know? And I've wanted them to increase the fire rate on this weapon basically since the season started, because one of my main gripes with the ONI Shotgun is it only has 2 shots, and so that's like kind of an inconvenience, right? And the fire rate of the 2 shots was quite slow to the point where you needed to like shoot and then swap to a spray weapon and then swap back to it. And I just felt like if I'm going to have to play like that anyways, I might as well be using the Sentinel Pump. I feel like if it, like, in an ideal world with the Oni, I would kind of want to shoot both shots and hit like solid damage with both shots and then just swap to my spray weapon to finish them. And then that playstyle would be like different than the pump. And maybe some people prefer that. Obviously, it has other differences too, like the range and consistency of the weapon is much better than the pump. But I felt like for most close range fights, I was having to play it like a pump anyways. And so I would rather just use the pump. And I feel like with this fire rate benefit, it's not a huge change that you could just spam the shotgun and it feels like a completely different weapon. It feels the same, but it does feel better at kind of like that playstyle I was talking about where you just shoot both shots with it and then swap to your spray with the finish. So I enjoyed using the ONI Shotgun after this update. I think I would still prefer the Sentinel Pump. I'll maybe make a video next week after I've had more time to play. But I think this change was good, and probably the most noticeable of the weapon balance changes they did today was the ONI Shotgun buff. So I think every other change was irrelevant, and then the ONI Shotgun buff was, you know, a good thing, and it is something that maybe will benefit some players. If you liked the ONI Shotgun before, this is great for you. If you were on the edge about it, maybe this tips the scales and then you end up using it. And I feel like that's kind of the whole point of weapon balance updates, is to change the meta and make other options more viable. And that's why I was kind of going really hard against the previous changes, because they didn't really change the meta and they didn't really make anything else more viable. It like didn't help anything, I think, but the ONI Shotgun buff was a good thing. The Godzilla change, I think, is also very noticeable. He does have a lot more health now and takes longer to eliminate. He stays around in the game for much longer. Not much longer, but like those fights last longer. I think this is going to be really good for if you don't get there right away, because as it was before, I felt like if you weren't very fast to get to Godzilla, and then you arrived and somebody had already done so much damage, it was going to be unlikely that you were able to catch up to them because Godzilla was like basically dead anyways. But now him lasting a little bit longer gives you more of a chance to be the person who gets max damage if you get there a little bit later. And I think that is a good thing. Obviously, there was always the potential that like the person who has max damage dies, and then so that advantage, that lead they had doesn't matter. That's still true now, and I feel like it's also even more of a factor now because the Godzilla fights last even longer. I feel like playing Godzilla now is less of a rush to just try to get max damage and more so just like playing the fight out, you know, properly and safely, and trying to get damage when you can, but also you can play a little bit safer because someone isn't just going to like rapidly eclipse you, and then Godzilla won't have enough HP left to catch them. So I think this was a good thing. And obviously some people hate Godzilla and they would rather him just not be in the game. That's a valid point, but I feel like if it is going to be in the game, having it be a little bit more relevant like this is a good thing. And then the same with the 100% spawn rate. If it was just like this forever, that would annoy me, but I believe it's just for the weekend. And then even if it's not, I believe Godzilla is removed on the 31st, which is next Friday, because the challenges in game actually expire on that date. So even if you hate Godzilla, it's only a few more days. Giving people a chance to play with it for the final few days, I think, is a good thing. So overall, I think this update was good. Every change, I think, was something that made sense. Like the Typhoon blade and the Twister AR should get nerfed. Those other weapons maybe should get buffed because they're getting ignored, but I just feel like the balance updates for a lot of those other weapons wasn't a big enough deal to actually change the meta. But let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, found it helpful, informative, interesting, remember to give it a like, subscribe if you'd like to see more, and I will see you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching.